Okay, well, welcome to Mostly Peaceful. Sorry, I didn't see a little live sign up there, and that's okay. But anyways, I wanted to welcome you all, and JJ Carroll. Good to have you back as always. How was your Wednesday?
It was good. Had a couple really good interviews with some really engaging podcasters that have very
Mhm.
high profile podcasts. So it was good. Great interviews. And I got an email from somebody that kind of made me kind of pause because they were right. They said, just keep plugging away. You're doing great. We need to hear this. And I know it's exhausting. And I didn't really realize that, yeah, it is to do
Oh, yeah.
multiple interviews. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it is because you and I, when we have interviews, we're passionate about the things that we're discussing. So it does take quite a bit out of us, but it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. It is. Well, you're getting. I'm glad you're getting a taste of it because it also stinks when you do a bunch and then no one calls you for a while. So you're lucky because you have a sustained topic that you're an
Yeah.
expert in, whereas I'm more of a Swiss Army knife. So I have to both show like a good article, like I did the other day with the Gateway Pundit,
Yeah.
or it has to end. It has to be in that news cycle. So my goal is to always get a good enough finding that is both helpful to people
Yeah.
and necessary. And because I mean, honestly, like I said, like I said the other day, I forgot where I said it. I don't care about fame or any. We got a semi-famous person in this household. That's you only need one per household. So um, I just like sharing this stuff and getting it out of my head because it does nobody any good when it's just stuck in here. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I have to get the article that moves the needle, and then it has to be in the news cycle as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing to me for the people that are contacting me. They're very specific. They want to talk about the SIAs and terrorists, and it is. I've been talking about this
The
for so
special interest
long.
aliens.
Yeah, special interest aliens. Excuse me, special interest aliens slash terrorists, and I've been talking about it for so long, Brian. And finally, people have awakened to it. And what was the genesis of that awakening was Israel being attacked, and
Mhm.
people just really woke up. That woke up a lot of Americans. I don't think it was the people flying in, which as disturbing as that picture is, flying on paragliders. I think it was the fact that terrorists went door to door and just started executing people,
Well,
and
that's
people
that's
could
a good point.
come back
Yeah.
home. Yeah, see that. Yeah,
Well, and you see, like, if people who've never been to Israel probably don't have a good idea of what Israel's like, especially on a kibbutz, which are the encampments. My wife actually lived on a kibbutz for a while when she was younger, and even when I was studying Arabic and had a better sense of the Middle East before I'd gone there, I always had this image of like kind of like an actual encampment, like you'd see, I don't know, like I don't want to say it and insult anyone, but you always have this idea of like this kind of like like kind of commune type thing, and it's a commune type system, but it's very looks like any American neighborhood for the most part. They remind me a lot of neighborhoods you'd see out in California, like in the Watsonville area, the real agricultural areas.
yeah.
So we have a lot to cover tonight. I don't know if you had a chance to see the. By the way, really quickly, Barry Atkinson, howdy back to you, Barry. Go ahead and throw it in the comments if you want, where you're from, or maybe are you in the Western Hemisphere? If you don't want to give away your state, that's fine. Always like to see where people are coming from. Sin O in the house. Good to see you again, Sin. She's like our primary
Yeah,
person.
she's always there.
Yeah, she's great. So Sin, welcome. And looks like we have some other people that are not chatting yet. Feel free to, if you're on YouTube, I think that's the only chat that's working, but feel free to hop on that chat on YouTube and pop it in. So what we have tonight is pretty interesting. I called the title of tonight's episode, and of course, this is always with the deepest empathy and never taking things lightly. But it's tonight we're going to be talking about shooters, Marxists, migrants or immigrants, zombies, and yeah, zombies, and war dogs. And so let me just lead in with that. Okay, so today we saw news about a shooter in Maine. Um, Actually, I'm from Maine. I grew up in Maine, so it really hit home when I saw that. And so there's a shooter in Maine. Looks like an Army reservist from what I've read, and we're going to get into some of the news coverage of that. And I think that's important because when these things happen, it's important to recognize what's real and what's fake. And for us especially, I'm in Massachusetts right now, and there's an alert out there saying, he might be in Massachusetts, he might be going to New York. There's all sorts of news. I always lock my doors and treat every day like it's something bad's going to happen, because it can. But that's confusing for a lot of people, and it's going to be it's got to be terrifying for a lot of parents. There's not a lot of details that I'm even comfortable talking about right now, but I'm going to get into again some of the coverage. And this just goes to show you, when these things happen, it's important to, yes, read the alerts, but at the same time, kind of triangulate your news, get multiple sources. First and foremost, make sure you're not in the danger area if there is one. Second, make sure your family's not. You might have family in, say, for instance, Maine, something like that. And be careful what you put out on Twitter, because everyone's just throwing it out there and they want to get clicks and everything. But I always say, if you're in a community page like Twitter or X, whatever they call it, it's always better if you're going to put out, say, the alert that the Department of Public Safety put out, for God's sake, put out a link, because someone put out the alert picture and I wanted to go and see, and I have family in Maine, and I had to go hunt for it. And I think that person didn't want people to leave their Twitter site. So, just when it's something like this, it's like, please, put the link, because a good friend of mine said one time that if you post without a site, it's just social media graffiti, and he's absolutely right. It does no good. I mean, it's better if you're going to be putting out content, except when you're being funny or cute or putting out pictures of your dog, like I like to. But in general, if you're going to be sharing information, share information. So again, to those families, certainly our deepest condolences. I hope we can find out more about this. And the other thing I'll say, and I'm going to demo this too, because I think it's important, is how to how to index news, because the news changes. And I'll share my screen a little later towards the end of the show. And then that's it. And then when these things happen, you also have to, if you're following the news or your business, if you follow news just related to your business, or you're a parent and you're concerned about what's going on with the schools, don't lose sight of that target. And I do believe it's time to really set aside an hour or two and show people what I do to keep on top of news that's important to me, and how I actually go through the news. I'll go through some of that today, some of the pitfalls. And then, just be careful who you are debating, and don't let people lead you astray, because honestly, I just use the news now, right or left, to get the headline, and then I go hunt for it myself, usually at the government sites and those type of things. So, with that, just be careful out there, and just be careful what information you're spreading around. We can't call people, we're called misinformation spreaders, and other people are, but don't be an actual misinformation spreader. Know your source, and news of any kind is not a source and not a primary source. So just be careful what you're spreading. And not only that, you don't want to look like a dumbass either. So if I get a story and someone links it to Wikipedia, I just delete it, because please. So anyways, that's my little horrible monologue, but back over to JJ. And JJ, I'm going to let you lead right in today. I do want to say, I want to address one thing. This is very important. I am not trying out for the local production of Grease with this hairdo. I live in Salem, Massachusetts, and walking into a barbershop around Halloween here is impossible. It's mobbed.
Really?
Oh, it is.
Why?
Well, it's Salem, Mass around Halloween. Salem witch
Oh.
trials. This is a big hot spot, and you'll never see so many people trotting around in fishnet stockings and Doc Martens who really have no business being in them. I'm just going to be mean and cruel and honest. And I got to say though, those gothy types. They tend to be really nice. I really have no problem with them. They're, and I'm so used to it. But it's like, they of all the people that come in from out of town to any place you live at, the gothy, witchy, whatever they are, Salem Halloween crowd. They're really, for the most part, pretty sweet kids with hauntingly ivory faces and really dark lipstick, both the men and the women. But that's okay. That's their thing, and hey, whatever they want to do. And the nice thing about this time of year in Salem is I own a parking spot, and I'm only a quarter mile from the Witch Museum, so I rent that sucker out for like $250 a day.
No way, dude.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. And you know what? I used to live in Augusta, Georgia when I was stationed at Fort Gordon.
Really?
And I had a 1,300 square foot apartment right down the street from the National Golf Course. And I used to rent that thing out. I'd make 6 months rent in 1 week renting that thing out.
Wow.
And the Army would let us stay in the barracks. So, my family hated it, but I'm in the overflow barracks with a baby in my, but it was all good. So what's new with you, JJ?
Man, I'm just looking at everything is getting shot out like from a fire hose. Information, to use the left's term, disinformation. But everything is happening with the backdrop of terrorism and just the fear that people have that when you allow tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people into your country that are from terrorist nations, and it's shocks to the system. I want to show you a video. I'm going to try to put it on as I'm learning StreamYard, which is very user friendly, but we'll see. But in this video, I have 3 videos I want to show tonight. They're about 2 minutes each. First one, I'm looking at my other screen. Is
and are you gonna spread those? Are you gonna spread those out, JJ?
Yeah, I am. I'm just going to use one right now, and it's from Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. He's great, right? He's the great one-liner. But this, in 2 minutes, he basically shows that, and you and I probably have this same agreement, you being in the Army and in government. When there's bad actors within a government, you usually have a very malicious leader with a couple of malicious lieutenants, but you also have a bunch of incompetent people that are just going to yes sir it and do what they're told, and they're lost. They don't know what's going on. And this clip of Senator Kennedy today, just asking simple questions, dude, to high-ranking DHS people, and they have no idea. They can't. He asked like 10 questions, and they couldn't answer one. It was shocking. Let me see if I can present it. It should be easy.
Let's see it.
Nope.
And if you can't, you want to send me the link, I could give it a shot.
I'm going to try it right now.
Or we can let Lev log on because he's the expert. I don't. I think you got to share your screen and then. Yep.
Do you see it now?
Yeah, let me move it into the main. I'm going to add it to the stage. There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
And then I'm going to just watch it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Morant, Since President Biden's been president, how many non-American citizens have come into our country illegally or on the basis of a claim of asylum?
Thank you, Senator. HSI as an investigative agency is,
Do you know the number?
no, Senator.
You're a senior member of Homeland Security, are you not?
That's correct.
Does anybody know the number? None of you know the number. Try 8 million. Now, of that 8 million, how many were children, Mr. Morant?
I don't have that number.
You
Senator.
don't know. Does anybody know? None of you know. Isn't that special?
Bueller.
Let's assume half. Okay. 8 million is 4 Nebraskas, right? 4 new states. Let's assume, I don't think it's as high, half of them are children. How many of those 8 million people are still here? Do any of you know? Okay. How many of those 8 million are claiming asylum? You don't know? How many of them claim asylum and don't show up for their hearing? Nobody knows. How many of them claim asylum, don't show up for the hearing, and President Biden has deported them? You don't know? How many of them have claimed asylum, shown up for their asylum hearing, and been denied asylum and been deported? You don't know.
That is incredible. What do you think, Brian? Can't hear you.
Yep, it is par for the course with every single hearing I've seen with this administration where they're bringing someone on, even as, I mean, let's not forget the newly appointed, Supreme Court justice I wouldn't say she couldn't, but wouldn't answer the question of gender. How many genders are there? What is a woman? Actually, and Sin made a good point. She said they know the number. Easier for them to play stupid. You think that's true, JJ?
I think it is too, but I lean to they don't know what's going on. And this has been, and I agree to a point, Sino, but at the same time, I've been in this inside the belly of the beast. I'm telling you that the incompetence is so great. It is like the raging characteristic right under maliciousness and treason. I swear to you it is. How can you go in front of Congress knowing you're going to get questioned by that man? You know they're going to talk about illegal aliens in the country, SIAs, asylum, parole, what's the percentage of kids being in? I mean, these are numbers that I could just go like this and answer every one of his questions almost down to probably within 1,000. It's shocking. It's shocking. But at the same time, it gives you an incredible glimpse, Brian, into the fact that our government doesn't care. They don't care. If you had 8 million people, that's just 8 million that are arrested and released. You're not talking about the getaways and everything else. That's 8 million in 35 months. And they can't answer how many people are in the system. They have to be so grossly, willfully ignorant not to know. They have access to all that data. They have statisticians that work for DHS that just all they do is spit out numbers for you. You can get real-time data just by looking at a screen. They tell you exactly every time someone's arrested, it just gets click and click and click. I saw that today and I was like, that is just par for the course. America is burning to the ground. We are vulnerable like we have never been before. And we have those buffoons are protecting us. Do you feel safe? I don't feel safe at all. It's horrible. And I have another video I'll show later that is Josh Hawley just reaming an executive with Office of Refugee Resettlement. And she has no idea. She has no idea how Office of Refugee Resettlement handles all of the unaccompanied alien children, UACs, 500,000 since Biden's taken office, from baby toddlers to 15, 16 years old, everyone in between. And she can't answer any questions. She's in charge of the children, and she can't answer basic questions. I don't know.
Well, I have an
idea.
I'll take a shot at it. This to me is okay. I'm going to stop clicking buttons. But this to me is, I think, like, this is a very Marxist move, and I'm not afraid to say these people are neo-Marxists, and they have a bunch of lapdog neocons that do whatever they want because they follow the money. So Democrats, Marxists, neocons, rhinos, or Republicans in name only. What it seems to me, and this happened in the Soviet Union, this happened in Mao's China, and and every leader after him, especially with Xi Jinping. It's a double standard, and it's a forced double standard, and they are trying to get the American people to give up, because this person, I don't know, but I'm guessing they're probably going to get appointed because you don't have a majority, plain and simple. I mean, if they get past the House, they're getting appointed, and that was the Senate. So there we are. And that was that a hearing for an appointment?
I don't know. Let me.
Okay, if that wasn't, I may have misspoke. If that was not an appointment hearing, then no, I'm incorrect.
I don't think it was. I just think it was a.
Well, that's worse. You know why? That means that person's already in the office. But what it is,
it all stinks.
Well, it's a double standard. So, like, back to the, if you look at like the Supreme Court hearings, okay, and when you saw the Amy Coney Barrett, when she was getting grilled, they were hitting her with everything. And she had one little notebook, and one of the Republicans said, Your Honor, can you maybe hold up what you have written down on your notebook, your little notepad? She held it up and it was blank because she had it all there. Whereas, I mean, just C-SPAN has never, like, C-SPAN is better than Amazon and Netflix combined at this point. That's your tragedy, okay? Or your sitcom, whatever you want to call it. Watching today where, if I have C-SPAN on all day long now because I want to watch it live. And when you see what happens, it's amazing. It's amazing. But that's what Marxists do. They're letting you know that, hey, you know what? We've got the power. It doesn't matter. We don't have to know, because what you going to do about it? They want people to give up, and a lot of people do. And that's by design, and no one should really give into that. You just keep pushing.
I absolutely, yeah. I think you hit it spot on, because I believe, just like you, I believe that they don't hide their maliciousness anymore, Brian. And they do that just because they want to say, and I know what I'm doing, and you can't do anything about it. I have all the power. That demented old fool that stayed in his basement and can't even read a cue card got more black votes than Obama.
He got more votes.
More votes. He got 81 million votes. More votes than any president in the history of our country.
But you see, that is like,
at the same time, Donald Trump, weeks leading up to that.
Oh, gotcha.
I disagree with you. I agree that it's like Kerry Lake, same thing in Arizona. Kerry Lake, it goes against a woman that won't even her opponent won't even do interviews, and all of a sudden, Maricopa County can't count the votes for 2 weeks.
Well, not
And
only
they can't
that,
find the votes.
no, not only that, at the Maine voter station, they had to shut down voting because the printers were out of ink. Like it's kind of like when you're at the airport,
Wrong paper. They had the wrong paper, Brian. They had the wrong
something like
paper.
that. And it's like, and it's almost it's like they don't try. But what I was gonna say though is back to the side, if I may. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Give me that nod. Okay. And
Yeah.
but what it reminds me of, so my brother was in Desert Storm in the Marine Corps. And by the way, I want to so there's a guy on the chat named Ernie Jansen. That's actually my cousin. So I just want to tell everyone, welcome Ernie. He's my actual cousin. And so if you see him dropping like the O'Shea name and all that, that's my blood right there. So Ernie, welcome.
Yeah, he puts out Fetterman. Oh, what a perfect example.
Yeah, Fetterman. That's just
oh God, where do we even start with that? Go ahead, Brian.
Well, and the thing is, I just want to say this side note, like, it might seem, the Democrats and even the rhinos with like McCarthy, they might be gloating, it's in your face, and you see it on Twitter, and of course I know everyone here is smart enough just to ignore those responses. But the thing is, it might seem funny, but it's not, because look what's happening around the world. And what the world is seeing is that the US is a joke. And I think I was talking about this on an interview last night. Our country right now, our world right now, it resembles, a third grade classroom. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher is the United States. And the teacher was pretty strict. He was that math teacher with the mustache that everyone was scared of, but would make fun of behind his back. But they didn't mess with him to his face. That was Trump. And then this new teacher came in. He's like, "Hey, everyone, we're going to learn to juggle. Forget about science." And then he died, and he fell down on the desk, and the kids are just running around, and no one knows he's dead, and they're like lighting crap on fire and breaking the windows, and it's like Lord of the Flies, man. And so what we need is a strong teacher or president to come in, because we are the leader of the world. And you see what happens when the country, like, look at who would want us as an ally right now. Who could trust us as an ally right now? And this has to be by design, because everyone's running to China, as even Israel has been in talks with China up until this event. The Palestinian Authority, they've met with China 3 times before this event. That's for another episode. I've got a lot on that. And hopefully,
why would Israel depend on a Democratic Party that have full blown
they never have
anti-Semites, right?
Yeah.
But it's just, and you're right. It's a great analogy. The world is on fire right now. And it's because it's human nature. When you remove a power structure or a power person, there's a void. It's going to be filled. It's like defund the police. Okay, let's pull the police back. Do you think no one's going to fill that power vacuum?
Well, it's worse than that, though. And that's why. Look, at the beginning of the pandemic, I said right away, and I even texted my family-in-law, and if that's such a thing, and because Biden, when he was announced as the winner, I'll never say he won, but when he was announced as the winner, they're all like, there's a big group text, and I have a family member in politics, like directly in politics, and they're all congratulating her, blah blah blah, and I went on a text diatribe, and I laid out everything that was going to happen in the world and to this country, and you know what? I hit them all. And this is the one time in my life, or I never want to be the "I told you so" guy, but especially with this text. And a year later, I looked at that text. I'm like, damn, But the point of that is, like, this has got to be by design. First of all, we all know that Biden is not making his own schedule or his agenda, because he reads it. He reads his instructions out loud. He's like, "Oh, I'm supposed to call on you, and I'm not supposed to say that. I'll get in trouble." We've all heard that. But the thing is, he not only isolated us and really hurt the relationship with Israel early on by letting the Squad do their thing. They almost cut off the funding for Iron Dome, which is that air defense thing. But then he called the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia a murderer, and then he called Putin a murderer. It's like he's intentionally, or whoever has their hand up his back making his mouth move. Susan Rice. But the thing is, it's like we're being isolated on purpose, and I think that's exactly what's happening. And people look to Ukraine and they're like, what's Ukraine got on them? What's Ukraine got on them? Probably a lot. What do they have on the Bidens? It's my guess, though, it's the Chinese that have the most on them, because the Chinese, they control Ukraine too. Ukraine's in the Belt and Road. Ukraine was the major exporter of neon gas, which makes semiconductors. And now that capability is gone because it got blown to smithereens. And Russia's been allied with the Chinese forever, and so is Iran. So it's, in my opinion, who can really have that kind of leverage over our president and his administration and half the country? It's the Chinese. And by the Chinese, I don't mean the Lao Beijing. The people of China, they're in a worse spot than anyone in the world. I'm talking about the Chinese Communist Party, or the CPC, or the CCP, depending if you're a scholar or not. But the point is, what really scares me the most, I got to thinking about this. This is just a gut feeling, but we assume it's like something bad, like pedophilia and things like that, and it could be. We've seen the normal attempts at normalizing pedophilia. That can all be by design. So when that news breaks, it doesn't impact as hard. In my opinion, what would be worse than that? Any guesses? I'll give what could be worse? DD Tudor, welcome aboard, or cousin Ernie, Barry Atkinson. What do you think could be worse than a president on video engaged in those kind of acts? What could give them more leverage than that act? Newsom's talking about it.
I think they've implicated his whole family.
I think we sold nuclear weapons to them and several other countries, or possibly weapons we've never heard of, or whatever it is. It's far worse than pedophilia. Or look, they're so corrupt anyways. It's like nothing could. Like, none of those things could be that impactful. And that's my belief, because nuclear weapons would take more than just one family, right? It would take an administration. My guess is what the Chinese have over Biden is Obama.
Maybe.
And let me see, October 26th at 8:50 p.m. Brian O'Shea said that. So we'll see. And again, I hope I'm wrong, but really I've been thinking about this, like, what could get half the government of the most powerful government in the world to pretty much, lie prostrate to China more than anyone else and kiss Zelensky's ass. This little guy in his Walmart t-shirts, who, pretends to be a soldier. So, and that's all I can come up with is, they have the entire because if you also think about it, and I was talking to Lev, and Lev, welcome aboard. Good to see you, my friend. David Lee, awesome name. Welcome aboard. Everything bad started in 2014. Like, there were bad things before that, but think how many bad things come out of 2014. You have your color revolution in Ukraine. You have the Smith-Mundt Act, which allows, the government to propagandize Americans. I don't think it was 2014, but it was close to them. But around the time of 2014, that was a major world shift. A lot of it that we're just coming to see now. That's when a lot of these Ukraine deals are going down. I mean, there was a lot that happened there. And let's not forget, in 2015, Xi Jinping was parading around the United States, getting welcomed by, you know, Boeing, Bill Gates, all these governors, even the Maine governor, like all, and it is into, and I have the invite, the dinner invite on that. And so for some reason, whatever was going on around 2000, that's also when a lot of those mysterious plane crashes happened as well. The Malaysian Air, one crashed in Ukraine and one disappeared in, outside China. And all that around 2014. And it's like too big of a topic. I actually have a notebook that I wrote 2014 on, and I just keep notes in it, but it's so much stuff. Anyways, point being, I think it's far worse. And they got to get these people out of there. And, thank God the speaker, we have some hope with the speaker. I'm not going to get too hopeful till I see something.
I want to see something, but everything he has said has been right on. But
do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the new speaker? Do you know much about him?
He's from Louisiana, and everything that
Mike
I
Johnson.
have seen, Mike Johnson, and he is fierce. And I saw him on Twitter, did a great tweet. Was Swalwell was making a comment that he doesn't understand McCarthy. When McCarthy was speaker, he didn't understand McCarthy was trying to disparage McCarthy, and Johnson wrote back in the tweet and said, "Would it help if we whispered Chinese into your ear?" And I was like, "Oh my God!" He just went
wait.
Who said kill shot? The new speaker. The new speaker put that on Twitter when I didn't see the date, but I assumed it was within McCarthy was speaker.
Damn.
But he went for the kill shot, and that's why I'm a Trump guy, because we need guys like Johnson. He needs to prove himself more, and Trump, where they just go for. We don't have time for niceties like the Bushes and the McCains and all that crap. We need somebody to come in, turn over the money changers, and run everyone out and throw them in jail that need to be in jail.
Yeah, totally. Well, JJ, if I could just jump in, just so we don't, for those of you that are, not news hounds and doing this for a living like we do, we don't get paid for this, but maybe someday 511 future sponsor, tactical gear that I love. But this new speaker was elected. So new speaker of the House for the Republican Party, which is the majority party in the House of Representatives. I know most people, probably everyone on this knows that, but just in case, Johnson, I think it's Mike Johnson got through. I actually didn't know much about him. He was referred to, I think, on MSNBC as Jim Jordan with a coat. So, which the fact, this is sad, but the reason why I'm confident that he's going to do some good is, first and foremost, the first thing he did was he led a prayer after his speech. And whether you're religious or not, for what I'm about to say, it doesn't matter. The point is that was a shot across the bow. That was letting them know. I mean, of course, he's a real believer, and I don't want to minimize that, but that was also a very bold statement by him. Like, there's a new sheriff in town, and that was it. I watched some of his past work where he grilled the FBI director, and the FBI director tried to pull some of that nonsense, like you saw in that hearing where, Chris Wray was like, "Well, I'm not familiar with that memo." He's like, "Oh, really? Because it comes from your office and it's right there.
You signed it.
You signed it." So that's what we need right now, and we need it fast, because they need to.
Yeah.
And it's good timing too, because there's going to be an omnibus. I guarantee it. This continued resolution.
We can't have that anymore. We can't continue our government to be omnibus, where that's where all the fraud and corruption is. It needs to be standalone.
We shouldn't. We can, because they're stupid, and they, they're looting the place. But the good news is that, and so for those that don't know, when a budget has to be passed at the end of every fiscal year to start the new fiscal year in the government. And you can get an extension, which is called a continued resolution. But what's that has, and that's just supposed to be the same budget for like 45 days. And that's kind of morphed over the years into the same budget plus all this extra pork.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you hear the debates about what the continued resolution is going to be, it shouldn't be a question. It should be the same budget, but they add all this extra stuff, and always for Ukraine. And so what happened last year, they did a continued resolution, and then because they still couldn't pass a budget, meaning an itemized budget where you cut things, they just passed this giant omnibus.
Yep.
And an omnibus bill is this massive, massive bill that pays for programs a couple of years out. And McCarthy was the speaker at the time. So in allowing that to go through, they took away what they say, they took away the power of the gavel. That means Congress's power comes from the fact that they control the budget and they control spending. But when you pre-spend or you pre-approve the spending, you have no more power. Now the good news
sold
is
us out.
he sold yeah. Oh, and I knew he would. You could just look. You just look at McCarthy, and he's like a cookie cutter, villainous politician from the movie.
Soft, impotent, flaccid, milk toast. You knew it. You knew it. We all knew it. We all knew it. And we need to have. How about this, Brian? How about applauding Matt Gaetz for having the courage in the face of even conservatives reaming him? That guy's a hero.
Well, and he's and there's it's the whole 20. It's all that young blood. It's the MAGA group, or they've got an actual name, but it's the people that put America first. It's the young blood. And what I'm noticing is, what I like about these people is they're the type of people where if you attack them, they dig in. Like the more you attack them, the more they dig in. And it's funny watching on both sides, like the rhinos and the Democrats. They're so used to the DC Beltway. And I lived there. I didn't work in politics. I worked, I always say I was a Morlock and Naomi was an Eloy, like from the Time Machine, the pretty people above in DC, and I was down in the gears. But in the intel world. But the thing is, watching them, the typical swamp try to deal with these new breed of politicians, they don't know what to do. So they just go to the media and they call them stupid, and they call their followers stupid. And I mean, we're back in high school because that's all they have. There's just to follow on that point, it's like that's in every like elite society. Like if you somehow make your way into one of these societal circles that let's call it the elite class, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be DC, just like in New York, for instance. And I've been there, and in terms of like going from one circle to another, and they'll say really shitty things to each other, friends supposedly, and then they'll try that with you, and you'll say, "Hey, I'm probably going to break your jaw now."
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. And then you just laugh and you say, "I'm just kidding." But they still don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden they're torn, because if you're attached to the right person, they can't disinvite you. They have to have you there. But it's like you're walking around like Wesley Snipes in Demolition Man in the future. And it's kind of fun, to be honest with you. And if you're brave enough, you can really use it. And I guess what gives me hope, and I'll wrap it up in terms of this because I'm running at the mouth again, but I'm seeing more of those kind of politicians filter in.
Yeah,
and that's good. And I hope more people like that guy in Pennsylvania or New Jersey. Some truck driver just said screw it, and he ran and he won. For like a few $1,000. And more people need to do that. And this is the time when more people need to, even if it's local politics, and I'll yield as Senator Kennedy would say. What else you got for us, JJ?
Let me show you this video, and it ties right into what Kennedy said. And today it's Josh Hawley, who I love, from Missouri, right across I'm in Kansas right now, so he's in right across the state line. I actually live right on the state line. And this guy, Ultra MAGA Party on Twitter, cut up his interview, but it's really, I've seen the full interview, and it flows perfect. He just took a lot of the other stuff out, but it shows you the ineptitude, okay? And it shows you this woman who is high up in the Office of Refugee Resettlement. It's ORR, and think of them as Child Protective Services. They handle all of the unaccompanied alien children, and they're responsible for getting them to their sponsors. But just watch this. It's shocking the way that Holly plays this out and the incompetence, and we're dealing with young children. So let me show you this. Brian, can you put that in the middle again, if you wouldn't mind? There we go.
Ms. Marcos, you testified a moment ago to Senator Butler that every child gets a Know Your Rights presentation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that before or after you release them to labor traffickers?
Senator, every child that comes into our care gets a Know Your Rights presentation.
Have you read that children are scrubbing dishes? They are operating heavy machinery. They are delivering meals. They are harvesting coffee. They are working construction. They are working as housekeepers. They are working overnight shifts at plants where they are not paid. They are not going to school. They are not cared for. They are not giving meals. Almost all of it illegally. Are you aware of that? That's a yes or no.
Yes.
Do the Know Your Rights presentation help them in those situations?
Senator ORR.
That's a yes or no, I think. Do you really think that you're helping these children by releasing them to labor traffickers and, yes, sex traffickers? 85,000 children whom you have no contact with, and your answer is we gave them a presentation before we turned them over to these people who are exploiting them on a scale not seen in this country for 100 years, a century. Do you do home visits in all cases? You can actually see where these children are being released, whose care you're putting them in?
We do not do home visits in all cases. Senator, I'd really like the opportunity to talk about what we
Let's look at what the
doing.
secretary said to you. Mr. Becerra, the secretary, told the ORR director, that's you, right?
Extraordinary times call for extraordinary people.
Yes.
That if she could not increase the number of discharges, he would find someone who could. That if Henry Ford had run his plants like this, he would never have become famous and rich. This is not the way you do an assembly line. Get the kids out, run them through, get them out to those sponsors, those traffickers. Why didn't you resign when he said this? Do you think that this is morally acceptable? Do you think that this is acceptable to run ORR like an assembly line and to release these children
I
to
can assure you
traffickers?
we do not run ORR like an assembly line. The safety and well-being of children is our top concern.
Plainly, it is not your top concern because you have managed to lose 85,000 of them, and they're with labor traffickers. How many are you in regular contact with right now?
I don't have the specific numbers.
How can you not know? Why would you come to this hearing and not know?
Respectfully,
I would like you to do your job and not release children to human traffickers. Respectfully, that's what I would like. I'd like you not facilitate the largest child trafficking ring in American history. Ms. Marcos, you testified a moment ago to Senator.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Can't hear you, Brian.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, par for the course. Yeah, it is but it's not unbelievable. That's the thing. It's like they don't care. But
I don't care.
you are seeing a shift now. Okay, and the shift
What
is
way?
this. Well, if you watch, it's important to, like, yes, I'm a nerd, but like it's important to keep that C-SPAN running in the background all day. And I don't have a video spooled up, but I was watching, I think it was the Energy Commission today, and the Republicans were just slicing and dicing all of that pork out of these giant $1 billion energy bills they were trying to pass. And they even put a motion on the floor to reduce the Secretary of Energy Granholm's salary to $1, because she's been so corrupt, beyond belief. And anyone in the audience, you want to throw up Granholm's crimes, feel free. So, oh, that's interesting. Cousin Ernie, send me that info, please. I'll give you my number. Not everyone, but I'll give you my number in a second. He's saying they are holding immigrant kids right near me at Lincoln Hall. For what purposes? Well, JJ, you want to not wait? And to round out on your video, so Granholm, but they're slicing and dicing these little things. And there was one. They only had one Ohio congresswoman named Kaptur, Kaptur, but they were trying to. Do you know, like today, we just narrowly missed having air conditioning banned and ice makers. And ice makers and air conditioning just got saved today by some congressman. I can't think of his name. But these lower commissions, like what I'm seeing is you never see change from the top down. You always see it from the bottom up. And so what I'm seeing is an erosion of that impunity and that seemingly unstoppable power that these Democrats have had. Now they're not getting a lot of stuff through, and it's those little bills. I mean, little, in the grand scheme of $1 trillion deficits, but it's those little bills that are these small victories, and it's just death by 1,000 cuts is what I'm seeing. So if we keep up the pace, we actually speed up the pace a little bit. It's going to really, really just destroy this current Democratic Party, because they're also destroying themselves too. They don't want Biden to run the Democrats. It's clear. Media's behind them on that, and they don't really have anyone to run yet. I mean, there's not much of a bench. I think it was going to be Buttigieg until he pulled his Zoolander act out there in Palestine, Ohio, when he showed up with this new. His new Herman Survivors or whatever he got out of the Abercrombie and Fitch catalog to look like a railroad guy. But anyways, who they have, and they're not going to let Kamala run because she's horrible. So yeah, when you see watching the details, not the big ones, but watching the details, there's a slow march forward. It's kind of like the way the Russians fight war right now against Ukraine, where we keep getting these reports, Ukraine's winning, which is total nonsense. They're getting decimated. They have it from the start. But what the Russians' fighting style is, they will move up like 100 or so feet every day, and then dig in, then move up, and then dig in. And that strategy seems to be happening in politics right now. So if the real Republicans and the real politicians that are there for the people, if they can keep that up, because we're seeing that, not with the majority of them, but we are seeing it. And also now with this new speaker, if he has strong leadership and does what he's going to say, that's great. And just in time, because the omnibus bill cannot pass. Okay. Right. The government doesn't need it. There's plenty of money. Force them to go back to a budget, cut all the spending, cut all the Ukraine crap, cut it all, because we don't need it. Russia doesn't.
Take care of America.
And by the way, anyone can go just do the math, right? You can add up, and Lev disagrees with me, but you can add up. There are not enough Russian troops to take half of Europe. That's the funny part about it. No one ever thinks of the actual physical space of combat. They're always like, "Oh, Russia, they're gonna, they're a threat to democracy." Maybe in their dream world they are, but not in this world. Threat to democracy is China.
Have you ever just stopped, Brian, and just asked yourself, let's put ourselves in Russia's shoes just for a second, and forget about all the rhetoric of Putin and all that other stuff. Imagine if Russia had battle, all their artillery, soldiers, etc., in Tijuana and Juarez, right on our door, and then they came and they blew up our pipeline. Do you think that we would have the right to go and fight them and be pissed off?
I mean, I don't. I mean, respectfully, like they say, but I'm actually going to be respectful. And you do know in politics, when they say respectfully, they're going to be disrespectful. But I don't think it's. I don't like to get into like hypotheticals. I will say, anytime someone tried to park some nukes off of Cuba, we put up a naval blockade. Yeah, our towers went down, and we took out 2 countries. Well, no, actually, we lost Afghanistan in the end. But the point is, like, no, of course not. But the thing is, like,
that's what we're doing, though, Brian. That's what we're doing. We're on their border, and when they signed that agreement with the UN said we will not go 1 more inch. We will not. That's what we agreed to. And Russia said, okay, if you do go 1 more inch and try to take Ukraine or some and absorb them, that means that our enemy, is on our front door, and we won't tolerate it. We will go to war. And we still did it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just, and like, look, I think Putin knew that was coming. I mean, he insourced all of his whole military industrial complex except for what he gets from China. I think he knew it was coming. I mean, their economy is doing fine. The sanctions didn't do anything. So, of course he saw it coming, because you can't trust anyone, in world politics. Of course not. And I wouldn't say especially these people, or especially these. I think Putin is, and this isn't rhetoric, just from his history, he's like Xi Jinping light. But then again, so is everyone else. I mean, everyone has their goals and their grand strategies, except for us. We don't seem to have any strategy right now. But the point is, we all have our own interests. I just my interests are America, and for we're not perfect, but I've been overquoting lately. Perfect is the enemy of good, as Voltaire said. So, but I do have it does. You bring up a good point. It does bother me when the United States is deciding who has the right to do anything. Like when they're blessing that Israel can do this, Israel's going to do it anyways. Like if they want to defend their country, they're going to. And they made that clear when they didn't take Biden's first meeting. They're like, who are you? Or like when, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia said a year ago, and if anyone has these things, you want to help me out and shoot them over to the chat, please do. But I was floored when I heard this. Someone said, well, what about the American president? You said you'd do this. And he said publicly to El Arabiya and Al Jazeera, I do not care what the American president thinks.
Yeah.
That's unprecedented. So
you think they would said that if that was Trump?
Oh, hell no. But at the same time, they'd be able to talk to Trump. He wouldn't start look how there was more peace. We had barely any deployments under Trump. I mean, there's peace through strength, and that's just a fact of the world we live in. And anyone who thinks that, that diplomacy alone is, going to get this world where we want it to be, and it's about where we want it to be, and it's where China wants it to be. But everyone stays in their corners if you're strong. It's kind of like having 2 competing gangs in Baltimore. If they're both pretty strong, they have agreements, and actually there's crime when that happens. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but it's the whole thing is just it's all about money, and it's always about money, and everyone's getting paid way above our heads, including Zelensky, including Putin, including of course China, and the key thing is, like, as citizens, that's big. Like, what do we do? What voice do we have? And well, you do have a voice, because we got the speaker out, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
We got Trump in. No one saw that one coming. Hell, even I don't think Trump saw that one coming when he won. So the point is and that's why you see so many moves against what is now being called the populist uprising worldwide, not just in America, but there's a major conservative populist uprising, and it scares the hell out of the power elites. And that's why you see them going after entrepreneurs. That's why you see them going after, everyone's a racist and everyone's this. It's like, whatever. That's why you see them going after the president of Hungary, because these are populist leaders, and the power elite of the world cannot abide by that, because they have an agenda that they think they're gonna split the world up, and we're all basically going to be like indentured servants. And that's not. I mean, that they pretty much said that. I'm not getting to any sort of conspiracies about, like some of the Klaus Schwab stuff. I think Klaus Schwab is nothing more than the Mandarin on Iron Man 3. But the point is, that's always been the case. I mean, that's the human condition, is the elite will always try to dominate the masses. And they normally do.
And you said something that made me think. You said that there is a mass uprising, or there's going to be a conservative uprising. I like that.
Oh, there is.
This,
worldwide.
because you live in a liberal part of the world. So I had a pre-interview conversation for about 45 minutes a day with a fairly large podcast out of LA. And his audience is center to far left, right? This is not my crap, but I talk to anybody. And I said, well, what's this going to be like? And he said, listen, there is awakening happening in the liberal circles where we're now looking at our president, and we're looking at all of the things that our people, our leaders are doing, and we don't agree with any of it. Any of it. So my question to you, Brian, do you feel that way? Do you see that in your liberal enclave of Massachusetts, New York, that whole eastern seaboard? Do you feel that way?
It depends. I mean, I would say it's a class thing, not so much a geographic thing. Yes, there's more. Like, New York's a great example. Okay, New York, the majority of votes come out of New York City, and in New York City, there are actually people. They joked about this on Sex and the City, which someone who used to be in my life used to love, and I hated that show. But they made a good point. There's lots of people. I met these people who've never left Manhattan. Cousin Ernie knows what I'm talking about. So the point is, like, when you actually live in New York City, and I've lived in New York City. We have a place in New York City right now. It's in Brooklyn, thank God. But we used to live in the West Village. I mean, that was the belly of the beast, man, except for the Upper West Side. And there's first of all, no one's really talking much about politics anyways, except in, the Greenwich Village mansions. But it's a bubble. These people with these big trucks, like, the food must just magically appear on the shelves. They don't know where that stuff comes from. And there's a lot of them that can't even drive cars because they've never left the city. So things like gas and stuff, that's not real to them. And, a lot of them are laptop class. That's why they live in the city. That means they work from their laptops. Granted, they went to the offices, but there was not huge disruptions for the laptop class during the pandemic. I'm one of them, I'm a private business owner, but 90% of investigations is research, and where it hit me was the gas, and because I drive a lot, I drive to jobs, and you do surveillance or whatever your protection, whatever you're doing. So, but for people, they never drive. They don't even own bikes, because you just get a city bike and away you go. Or you hop on the metro metro's DC, the subway, and away you go. But New York's very, very unique that way. I'd say more than any other city, where you don't actually need to leave the city, and you really have no idea what's going on outside the city if you don't leave. Yeah. But I will say this. When you get those people, especially the young people, out of the city. And I'm talking beyond family members. I've just invited people who I kind of knew up to stay at a place that's not our house, of course, but come on up and we'll do some shooting or just do some ATVing and stuff. They love it, and they never want to go back to the city. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. They're given a view of the world through that lens that is really controlled in like Chicago and New York City and San Francisco. But once they get out and they experience what's really happening, and it's fun. And they all say that too. They're like, "Man, it's so you guys have so much fun. You guys know how to have fun." I'm like, "What do you mean, you guys?" They're like, "Well, man, I would never own a lazy boy. I would never, sit on the back of a truck and drink a beer." I'm like, "Why not?" Like, it's not like people in New York City don't. Look at the working class in New York City. They seem like the happiest people in New York City. And, they're barely making ends meet. So, back to your question, not in the hearts of the city and not with, the 20 somethings, but you kind of see it if you know how to translate it. We talked about this the other night. Is it Gen Z, millennials? I always get confused. Basically, that 18 to 30 crowd.
Yeah.
You're making progress. They're kind of waking up because those things they were so passionate about, like Biden and the Democratic Party and wokeism, and they don't talk about it anymore. They'll never tell you you're right, but they don't talk about it anymore. And that's a sure sign that they're like, oh man. And look, they're also having a problem getting mortgages and paying off credit cards and paying off student debt. And good, get a job and pay it off, and they'll feel better for it if they just do the hard work. And so I don't see it so much in the circles I know in New York City, but in the place we live in Brooklyn, we go out and it's mainly Haitian and Jamaican and a lot of people from the islands that live there, and they've lived there for a long time. Very working class town, and we go out to the bars there, and we talk to everyone. We met these people the other day. One guy was from I think he was from Ivory Coast or Senegal or something like that, but his dad was in the military in Africa, and he's like, he knew all about like China and everything. I was like, well, this might be a hot topic, but China. He's like, oh, China, man, they've just enslaved most of Africa. We hate the Chinese in Africa because they're ruining everything. And they knew everything that was going on. And these laptop class guys who are still at that working class level of income, they're like, no, we're done. We're done. We're done with all this nonsense, So, I think you're seeing a shift. And I think that shift comes from the fact that people are going broke. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about money. Money. I mean, Carter got away with a lot. Ford got away with a lot because it never their actions never really hurt people's pocketbooks the way these actions are. And once you start messing with people's money, things shift really quickly.
Yeah. Can I show this last video that I have, Brian?
You sure can. And then we're going to get into the Maine shooter, and I do have zombies on here, and I'm serious.
I gotta have a zombie talk. So this one, I saw this right before I came on, and this is what I've been writing about on my Substack and doing YouTube shorts about, and it's the saturation of the major cities in America are being saturated with illegal aliens. They declare state of emergencies, and now you're starting to see the NGOs farming out all the illegal aliens now to small towns across America. And this man posted a video on TikTok, and it popped up on YouTube and as well as
and where is it? Where's the thing?
Small town in Georgia.
Okay, and it's
small
recent.
town in Georgia. Yeah, it's like probably today.
And
or yesterday.
Just for anyone who's new here, if you don't know J.J. Carroll, the man to my left here, he's a retired 24-year border deputy agent in charge. Did I get that right? Patrol agent.
Close, so deputy patrol agent in charge. Yeah, just a border patrol agent, but
and the author of a great book called Invaded.
No, thank you. And This video is just 2 minutes long, and it shows a man in small town Georgia driving around, and he's stopping and talking to a gentleman from Africa. It's an African American driver is talking to an African, cannot speak English at all, and this man that's driving is irate because he says, "This is now in my community." And as he drives around, you can see it's very, very small town Georgia. If you've ever been into Georgia, I grew up in the deep South. It's very small town, front yards.
Mhm.
But now you have single adult military age men roaming your streets in your small towns. There is nothing good that's going to happen. This is going to be bad. So I just want to show you this because it really drives home the point that I've been saying for quite a while. And now we're starting to see the manifestation of it.
All right, I'm standing by to center that video.
Yeah,
And if you
thanks.
expand the video, if that's possible, that'd be
Send
great.
it. Yep.
Okay,
Okay,
another
is that
comment
better?
here. JJ is the reason I found you. Do you know Willie Walker? Hey, Willie.
Have I met Willie Walker? I don't know. Oh, I don't know.
Well, Willie, shoot an email to info@jjcarroll.com and maybe you guys know each other. Who knows? Or that's cool, man.
Yep. He doesn't say, maybe in the video, I didn't really hear. I was looking at one of the questions, which small town? I don't know. Maybe he'll say it in the video, but let's see.
All right.
You stand right there? Huh? You stand right there?
Of course, it freezes up.
Okay, then. So how long have you been in America?
Which town is this, JJ?
I don't, they don't say, but it just says in my state of Georgia, but it's a small, you can just see it. Small town, they're staying in a local church.
You been
Look
in
at his
America?
face.
What
So
about it?
I don't know why it's not doing it now, but
Oh, that's okay. If you just scroll it back to the end, we could talk over it. Scroll it to the beginning and hit pause, and then we could talk over it while it loads.
You stand right there? Huh? You stand right there?
one thing that I do want you to look at is I want you to look at his skin. Okay?
Okay, then. So how long have you been in America?
Like the looks like some sort of a rash or something.
Yeah.
You know, there were cases of leprosy that were reported by the CDC that came through the border.
You been in America? They flew you in? Small. Yeah, they flew you in America.
Hey, JJ,
Okay, go ahead, man.
can you
Yeah.
put the URL? So down there in at the bottom of your tweet, can you grab that URL? So the up arrow, grab the link.
No.
That's okay. Yeah, so if you get down to that, if you could just grab the link, or maybe someone else can grab it. Yeah, I don't think it's going to load.
Yeah, I apologize. It just
No,
jumped
that's okay.
all
That's okay.
online.
We're just a couple
Let's just try it
field
one more
guys.
time. Let me just see.
All right.
Let me just see.
Sound.
America. You been in America? They flew you in?
Got it.
Yeah, they flew you in America. Okay, go ahead, man. I'm done. You don't see what's going on here. And they stand right here. You see what's going on here, guys? See, I keep my eyes open, and y'all right here being entertained, want to be separate, and they bringing these people right.
Yeah.
That
Well,
is,
I
yeah.
apologize.
No,
I
that's okay.
apologize for that, but
Technical
for
difficulties,
whatever
man, they
reason,
happen.
you can see it. I don't know why it's spinning, but you get the point. Here's a man
Totally
driving,
get
and
the
he's
point.
like, wait a minute. And when he drives up into drives past, he drives by another 2 or 3 single adult, military age, continent African individuals. And he's had it. Look at it's a small town. It's a small Georgia town, probably one of those towns that has, 5,000-10,000 people max. And you're going to start thrusting people that don't speak English, and they're all military age male that can't work. They just hang out all day. So You think that's going to play out well? Look, you don't have to like my take or the way that I articulate things, but you have to look at the data and look at situations and say, wow, I don't think that's going to work out good at all. You got a guy there, obviously has skin problems. What is that? I don't know. Did he have leprosy before? Does he have a disease now? I mean, those are important questions because in my world, I had those people in my cells and they had every type of ailment, scabies, lice, tuberculosis, HIV, full-blown AIDS, you name it, on and on and on. So when I saw that video, that's the first thing that popped up. Look at his skin. What kind of African disease is he have? Like,
can you talk to
exactly.
well, from your experience, JJ, can you talk about some of the things disease-wise you saw come through the border?
Well, when through the border, we would have, in the border, the biggest thing that we dealt with, and we had to have hepatitis shots constantly. Everybody had hepatitis, so we had to have annual hepatitis or every 2-year hepatitis shots. Every 3 years, I think it was, we had to have all of our TB. We had to be tested constantly for TB because tuberculosis, here's the dirty secret. They being illegal aliens from the third world nations, carry a drug-resistant tuberculosis. Drug-resistant. New York City, the Maine, please forgive me, I don't know this guy's name, but his title was like he's the Health and Human Services guy in New York City. And he was like, whoa, hold on. And they shoved him down. And he even said before they closed him down, I'm seeing diseases I've never seen before. I'm seeing polio. Polio. We have an outbreak of polio in New York City. We have people that we're sending those kids to school that have no vaccinations. None. We would see measles, mumps, scabies, lice, tuberculosis, full-blown HIV, COVID, like crazy COVID. Anything you can imagine.
Well, and there's no vaccination, and there's no vaccination or screening requirements anymore either. And what's worse is the protests in New York City. The parents are protesting because they want to mandate their kids to get the useless, worthless, probably worse than that, mRNA. But these new arrivals are not at all required to get anything.
Because they never had anything. So why would you? You know what kind of danger our kids are in? Do you know what kind of danger we're in? I mean, you don't have to envision what a small town being dominated by military-age adult men. All you have to do is look in Europe and then no-go zones. No-go zones. So, Brian, let me make this one point about the small town in Georgia. What you have to understand is once you get several of these people in your small towns, wherever it is, they will put a hook into your community, and then they will get on their phones and say, I got everything I need here. You should come here. Where is that? Georgia? Hey, I will send you an address. Just get here. The federal government's going to give you a plane ticket to come here.
Yep.
Okay. Then they all show up. Now you got 1,000. They got 1,000 single adult military age men from the continent of Africa, don't speak English, can't work because the federal government did not give them work authorization documents. So they're just milling around in your downtown.
Yeah.
There's no women to date. There's no women to date.
It's going to get cold up here in the Northeast, and people, desperate times, man. And it's on that note, and it's not only the disease and the physical danger, but the financial danger. Like, America really doesn't have a lot of money. We're printing money. That doesn't mean we have it, but also there's no money coming to these sanctuary states. This was a bait and switch. Like, hey, take the immigrants, we'll take care of you. It ain't coming. And they made that clear to Mayor Adams. Like, yeah, nah, you're good, man. Sorry. yeah, gotta retract that one. And so, and I'm just putting this up here. Like this Massachusetts last year, but still, you see that headline. That's our money. That's our.
It's your money.
And right where I'm at now in Salem is, and I'll put these up. I'm going to put these up on the Substack for Daily Clout, so everyone has these. But at Salem State University, I found out that they put 400 Haitian illegal immigrant families in Salem State. Like that is, maybe half a mile, or not even a quarter mile away from me. And you don't see it at first, but then you realize the numbers are bigger than they're saying, or they're bringing in more, because now it's at the point where, like, I'm not, I went to my favorite place to get my crispy, crunchy chicken. It's a little Indian owned, C shop, like a convenience mart. And by the way, that it's actually called Crispy Crunchy. I don't know if they have it out there, but it's in all the C marts. But just I've been around like you have, and I've been around dangerous people, and little punky kids, they don't bother me, and little gangbangers, they don't bother me. But this was different. Like there were a lot of people loitering that there's a certain look, like, and I'm not trying to stereotype anyone, but it's kind of like, honestly, it felt like walking into, Zamboanga on the wrong side of town when I was over there fighting the Abu Sayyaf group, or getting off course and ending up in a bad part of Yemen. I mean, that's what it felt like. And it didn't feel really safe. Like, and I told my son, yeah, why don't you come on in with me? Usually he likes to wait in the car and, check out his phone. But I was looking, I'm like, yeah, I think you're going to go in with me. And then you got to bow out and put on that savage face, to, not have any problems. And that's a problem too, because we even have the Massachusetts governor trying to encourage people to let people move into their spare bedrooms.
I can't wait. I can't wait till that happens. I can't wait till that happens, Brian. I cannot wait.
Only a fool would do that. Only a fool would do that.
Fool. But here's another thing before we move on to I want to talk about. I want to hear your.
Go ahead.
The only other thing that I want to say is, when these men are here and all the fanfare has disappeared, all the free stuff is kind of drying up, and they're living in little hovels in apartments with 4, 5, 6, 7 other people, and they're doing menial jobs, and they're watching people in America drive very nice cars, and they don't have a car. They're going to restaurants, and they're very fine dining, and you're cleaning the dishes, or you don't have a job at all, and we're throwing away food that they would kill for. What will happen, and you've seen in Europe right now, is they become pissed off. So now you've got men 18 to 30 years old that are hungry, they're tired, they're dirty, they haven't had a woman or a companion of any sort in months, year, and then they become resentful. And then they look at you and say, you lied to me, and then you brought me here to be your slave. And then there's going to be an uprising. And that's why you're seeing Europe begin to burn to the ground. And you're seeing countries that were welcoming all of them now are turning, like Sweden is turning around and going, holy cow, we don't want any more of this. And it's happening. And Ernie had a great point, and it's absolutely 100% factually true. The third world nations have emptied their jails and their insane asylums and have pushed those people into the hordes of humanity and into America. It's absolutely a fact. And it's scary.
Well, it is. And, Ernie reminded me I'm paying taxes in both. I'll choose not to address that, Ernie, I'm a small business owner. Let's just leave it at that. But on that note, in addition, we have so we have other problems, right? We have, and I'll say one more thing about it: the way it affects people. And look for this. One just moved into our town here in Salem, and they have a. I couldn't believe this, and Naomi was a little shocked by this, and she's, you know, she's a lot more empathetic than I am. I'll put it that way. Not much anymore, but you know, she does her best to see the plight of others, and I'm, you know, that's obviously why I married her. She's wonderful, but even her, there's this beautiful like food. They call it a food bank, but man, this looks like, I mean, it looks like Trader Joe's. It's brand new. It's right across the soccer field, and they even have DoorDash, and we can't go there. We're not allowed to go there because we're not on those. There's a special benefit and a special card you have to have. And I'm going to take my little hidden camera tomorrow and go in there and tell them I'm a disabled veteran and I have benefits. So I want to get my food, and just see what they say. And it seems like it's set up for these illegal immigrants because I don't see anyone else waiting in that line. And this is not like, you're getting it's not like Jean Valjean and Les Miserables. You're not getting a hunk of old bread and a couple of eggs. I mean, there's like Whole Foods level food in there. And we, there's not really great shopping around here anyways. It's actually, they're getting better shopping choices for free than we can get for money in a lot of cases. And I'm like, there's something really off here. I mean, beyond off. And the thing is, it's like there's a sign, and I'll get all this signage too, but somehow the CDC's involved in it. I mean, and maybe it's for the best. Maybe they're experimenting on. I don't know, but it's like it's in a prime piece of real estate. It's brand new. They have freaking DoorDash. I couldn't believe it. Free DoorDash. In New York, they're getting free mopeds, and they're crashing into everyone, and then they're stealing. Then they're stealing each other's mopeds and other people's mopeds. And, right in Brooklyn, it's like, what? I mean, yeah, granted, like, okay, now people see it and they'll start making change, but yeah, it could be too late. It's like, we're not going to recover from this for 10 years if we stop today. And I'm talking stop.
Yep. We're not stopping. It's 12,000 illegal aliens cross the border every single day. 12,000.
Oh, and on that note, according to these two congressmen, and I'll find the tweet and I'll put it up, we are borrowing, we're going into debt in this country, 17,000 and change a second. 17,000, and I'll get that tweet up. These guys broke down the numbers for like an hour at a very empty congressional hearing. 17,000 a second. I can't even do the math on that. Like, that's insane. Which means the dollar is going to be worthless. And again, I've said it on other episodes. I think the point of that is drive down the value of the dollar. And that way, when they bring in this digital currency, which Biden put, he put that in his executive statements, so it's on the record. It's not a conspiracy theory. Who's going to resist that? Like, if your dollar's worthless, they say, hey, but you could have this and it won't be worthless. Of course, it expires and they control it and they can shut it off anytime they want because it's a central bank owns it. And they already have it in China where your money expires. You have to spend it and they can decide what you spend it on. And as draconian as these people were during this pandemic, as they called it, I could easily see them doing that. I mean, the same people that were like, hey, you should lock up all these unvaccinated people. I don't think they'd have ever any problem with saying, yeah, don't let them buy anything but, bug casserole and, Molson, God help us, would be forced to drink Canadian beer. That's a shot at my buddy Steve Waterhouse. He's Canadian. So I got a lot of friends in Canada. Their beer is just fine. But yeah, the point is, it's like, we've seen the nature of people in power. We've seen that nature. And I'm not trying to be, hands across America here, but like, We've seen that with the Republicans during Desert Storm. I mean, during Operation, what was it? I was in it, but like, anyways, we saw that with after 9/11. Okay, and the way people were getting, I mean, there were people on the Republican side saying, yeah, lock those people up because they could be terrorists, and that kind of set the stage for where we're at now. Was the post 9/11 actions, the see something say somethings, turning our whole state into a snitch state.
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw that with COVID. So, the point is, it's like, I see them spend 17,000, and with your number, would you say 12,000 a day?
A day.
And we're paying for them. So you could probably double that. So add that on top of what we're going into debt for. We're borrowing it from the Chinese. A lot of people do not realize that. We are further and further in debt to the Chinese, our mortal enemy. Just so we could get through the news, I'm going to grab the conch back here on our little land of the Lord of the Flies. But I want to talk about this Maine shooter. And look, I just read up on this earlier. I didn't even know about it, honestly, until like late in the morning. But let me add this. So I got my little... All right. So as I understand it, this guy killed 18 people. There we go. And there is a manhunt. He is still at large. Something came out earlier saying that the shooter may be heading to New York, may be heading to Massachusetts. And so, that happened. But what I want to get into here is the coverage of this. So what I did notice was, and you guys probably have noticed this, it doesn't take long after a tragedy for to become a political thing for people to get their spending through. And we've all seen, probably since about April, all of these calls for increased mental health assistance or initiatives. And that's all coming down from Health and Human Services. And let me get this other one here. There we go. And so, sorry guys, I didn't have time to do slides, so I just did PDFs. But the point is, so you go through these news reports, and they say, so for now, Card is wanted on 8 counts of murder. Maine State Police, Colonel William Ross said 7, blah, blah, blah. White Subaru, they got the very normal, right? And, this is pretty normal coverage, but what caught my eye here, and this is really not a good precedent, was first of all, the media doxes this guy's address. They gave his address out, and they have his they have his birthday and his address. Now, that's not smart, because I'm sure there's other... What if it's a multifamily or an apartment complex or something? There could be other people there that get killed. It's almost like they want this guy to get killed, because I don't want to get into a conspiracy like, he's a government agent or anything like that. No, I don't know who he is. But the point is, like, that kind of reporting, like I've never seen that this early in an investigation, where they put out the address like that and the guy's data. Like, what's the point of the date of birth? Like, why not just say he's 40? Okay, but they put out his full date of birth and his full address. It's almost like they want people to find him. And yeah, look, the guy's on the loose. He killed 18 people. It can make sense, but date of birth would help someone like me, who has the tools to, to find him. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I just don't see the point of that, putting out that kind of information. And then if you go further on these, let's see if this one has it. Yeah, so this came out earlier. Oh, and this is the Gateway Pundit, who, by the way, best coverage on anything. I recommend everyone who doesn't know it. Full disclosure, do some volunteer work for them. I've been lent out to them by Daily Clout to help with research, which I love doing. Jim Hoft, the founder, is a great guy. But so you go through this, and of course, there's the normal calls for gun control, and that's to be expected. But you start seeing, people calling for like mental health. And what you're seeing there in that case is the Gateway Pundit reported how social media misreported the guy as a sex offender. And they social media put up the wrong guy. Now you're like, well, who cares? Social media, right? Well, what matters, because social media does drive the news cycle. Okay. And that's a fact. They take their talking points or headlines from social media, and you saw the media this morning shifting towards a sex offender story. And then, as the Gateway Pundit reported, for some reason, the Maine State Sex Offender Registry suddenly went down. Now, I throw it up in the chat. I don't know what that means. Could have been overwhelmed, maybe, with people looking at it, and that's very possible. Could have blown out the servers. Who knows? But it went down. I don't know if it's up yet. And I'll say this, another really weird thing. Now, I'm from Maine, and we're always not the best at everything, but like, I had trouble finding these alerts on the public safety website. Like, you would think something like that would be a banner, like I have JJ Carroll there scrolling across the bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, it was easier to find the alerts on CNN, who doesn't source anything, than it was, to find it on the Maine public safety website. You would think they'd want the public to have that information. I mean, they're putting out everything else about this guy. Another thing that's really interesting that happened so that's the shooter. That's really all I know. If you have better, some new articles, this is kind of updating as we go. It was in Lewiston, I guess, where the shooting occurred. There's a lot of people, man. I mean, there's a lot of people. This guy's a sergeant first class, as I understand it. I think his name is Robert Card. He's 40 years old. And that's really all we know. But these calls for mental health really are interesting. And let me give you a quick, I think this might be it. But there's something I really have been catching a lot in when you read the paper. And I just want to show you guys how, if you don't mind, how I read the paper. Okay. And because when you do it long enough, and I was in I was in kind of a similar field where without going into too much detail, where, I was kind of trained to, look for the way they kind of, manipulate things in the paper. So, all right. So sure. Analyze mental health news, doc's address. Okay. So if you go, so everyone's saying he had mental health issues. I'm bringing this up now. Everyone said he had mental health issues, but you never get a source for that. So in the same article, they're like, oh, he has mental health issues. That could be anyone on the street. So you want to look for words that say a source said, not an official source. Not, I understand if it's a cop or something, they can't reveal the name, but look at this one here. Let me bring this guy up again. So you go here, and then, I'm sorry guys, it doesn't let me scroll, so it's like you gotta click side by side. Okay, police identify, make sure residents stay inside. So Maine State Police said that, in the hospital overnight. Okay. So they go on, and then they said, ABC News also learned that a note was found at Card's home. Sources declined to describe the contents of the note, its length, or the relevance to the investigation. Why'd they even put that on there? Like, seriously, what's the point of even mentioning that? That's a big nothing burger, the way they're reporting it. It could be something, but like, why put it, on there? And I'm not I just became a journalist, but I'm not a trained journalist. I'm kind of learning as I go. But then they go on, and I think at some point, and I just can't find it right now, but oh yeah, here we go. Sources here at the bottom, it says sources also told ABC News. Sources also told ABC News said, well, I think they have a typo. Card has a mental health history, including a 2-week stay this past summer at a mental health facility after he reported hearing voices and made threats to shoot up a National Guard facility in Saco, Maine. Honestly, that sounds anecdotal to me. First of all, why would anyone know that information unless he shared it with them? It sounds to me, I mean, not to get all Salem witch trial-y on you here, but that's the worst type of reporting I've seen on these kind of things. Like, he's already a monster, okay, and they're trying to make sure everyone knows that he's a monster. Like, I really feel like whatever's going on with this guy, and he deserves justice, don't get me wrong, but I kind of want to find out what's going on, because the way this is being reported and the way everyone's in lockstep is really strange to me. Like, they're giving the public vigilante type. They're creating a vigilante type of environment where I don't see how the police get this guy alive at all. So it's just something to pay attention to. But what's also interesting, and again, I don't know why it's interesting, I just happened to catch it. I'll put up this other one here. There was another active shooter alert at another military base today in New Jersey. Did you hear about this?
Really? No, I didn't.
Yeah, I just happened to catch it. Here we go. Good old Gateway Pundit, man. Everyone get on the Gateway Pundit. Tell them Brian sent
Gateway Pundit.
I don't get anything for it but a good pat on the back, but I'll take that, and so all right, so here we go. Check this out. All right, so here we are. All clear message sent following report of an active shooter in Joint Base McGuire Dix Lakehurst in New Jersey. An all clear was posted at the New Jersey base in Burlington County. Ordered a lockdown in response to a report of an active shooter on the base. All personnel reported to be safe, and they put that in quotes. I don't know why. After what appear to have been, they really got to get spell check at these places. But this is actually not Gateway. Oh no, it is. Sorry, Jim. But to be fair, they put out like 300 articles a day. They're always on top of everything. But anyways, update, all clear. Okay, so this is a military base. I just want to point this out. This is a military base. I'm a veteran. My cousin Ernie's a veteran. You're a veteran of an armed force. We don't make a lot of mistakes on active shooter reporting on a military base. It just, you're at ranges, you're shooting, there's an active shooter on a military base. It's not typical for them to get it wrong. It's not something that normally happens because it's a military base. So again, I don't know what this means. It seems like it's pretty specific. Maybe it was an accidental discharge in someone's barracks room. Who knows? But I'm just letting you know, it happened today, just a few hours after this other one. So, happy to, maybe someone in the audience can kind of keep an eye on that one, and I'll definitely keep an eye. I just thought that was weird. I couldn't believe I found it and no one's talking about it.
That is strange.
Right?
Yeah,
okay, so that's the active shooter thing. Of course, some of the reporting in Maine said, oh, this is a case of mental health, and also Maine's very light on their gun laws, and they don't have the red flag thing, and we need that. Well, the red flag thing is like the worst infringement on your constitutional rights. Anyways, that's like you say something mean on Twitter and they can red flag you from buying a weapon or ammunition. But you see them inserting these things, and these things do scare me because it's like, I almost feel like sometimes the powers that be, I'll just leave it at that, want these things to happen, or if they do happen, they allow them to happen worse than they should to push agendas. And the problem, whether you like guns or not, doesn't matter. You pick apart any part of the Constitution, the whole thing comes apart like a sweater. And so when I see something like this, and the thing about this is that they're talking about this guy crossing state lines, and they put out an alert for New York, and I think they put one out for Massachusetts, but they didn't put one out for New Hampshire, unless I'm mistaken. You can't get to either one of those without going through New Hampshire. And I believe Vermont, and my geography is off right now, but New Hampshire you got to go through. You're going through New Hampshire, and I didn't see any alert for New Hampshire. So I feel like they want this to affect more than one state. I got to say, for like this guy, for all we know, could have been put down by the cops already. I'm just saying, just hypotheticals here. Yet, I don't know how they haven't caught this guy yet. Like, I just don't know how they haven't caught this guy yet. It's a lot of people. I mean, they caught the Brazilian murderer, parkour guy who, walked out of basically climbed out of a prison several weeks ago, and that guy was moving around. He was doing the right things. He was staying out of populated areas and everything, and they caught him pretty quickly. Now, granted, it's been a day, but still, this one's there's something weird about the whole thing, and I normally don't. You know me, I don't normally say that. This one is just a little strange, I think. Oh, and it was also, they blamed Tucker Carlson like first thing in the morning today.
Why?
Like I got to read up on it. I was running around today, so I didn't get this. I went way too far down this rabbit hole, but yeah, someone blamed Tucker Carlson, and that because it was trending this morning, Tucker, and then it was some Tucker guy's birthday, some news meteorologist or something. But I saw a few tweets, or with good amounts of followers, blaming Tucker Carlson. Who knows?
That's crazy.
Which is a shift, because I would expect they blame Trump like they used to blame everything on Trump, but now apparently Tucker Carlson's to blame. And then, okay. So that's that. I feel like I'm teaching class. I was about to say, any questions? Never underestimate the mic infrequencies either. Willie Walker said, never underestimate the mic infrequencies either. You guys can hear me okay, right? I don't want to be, I don't know what that means.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. All right. We'll skip the Marxists. I'll save that one. I'll do my own thing for that. That goes into Action Network. I just wanted to say about the Marxist thing. All of these groups, especially a lot of these groups you've seen on the Action Network and Open Collective that I reported on the Daily Pundit the other day, they're openly Marxist. Like, that's not like a bias. Like, a lot of them are like, the Democrat Socialist Union, or like, the Marxist values. I mean, they're Marxists, like, by their own admission. So I don't want people to think I'm, being trying to excite the crowd here. But they right away this morning, I saw the Action Network, the one that I reported on. And I got berated by someone who said, "Oh, this is just people trying to exercise their democratic rights."
Oh,
yes,
God.
that's true. And doing a petition against a new speaker, that is exercising their rights. That's totally fine. The point is how quickly they can do it. And that was the whole point of my reporting, not whether or not they should be able to do that. Of course they should. But the whole point of that was, I guess I will call it up because I have it on alerts now because I now have an Action Network account.
Oh, good for you.
I won't say which name it's under, but but yeah. So right away this morning, you could see. Let me just make that full screen. There we go. I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay, can you see that? All right. But this is
small.
I'll increase it and then I'll read it. Okay, yeah, it's
really costs. Oh, God.
Yeah, so basically he's saying sign the petition. The petition is to denounce House Republicans for supporting or even shielding insurrections. You're signing this petition to denounce House Republicans for supporting or even shielding insurrections. First of all, officially, there was no insurrection. That is a media talking point. No one's been charged of insurrection. The council or whatever that was, that J6 commission, is, a joke. There were no weapons found. I'm not going to go into all this, but we all know, but that's the petition. That's like saying we want you to sign a petition to denounce anyone, whoever is racist against outer space beings that may land here someday. Like, what is this petition about? But the whole point is, it's not about that petition. It's Cost Media who put that out, KOS. They're activating their people for something else, and that's why they do these kind of petitions. I encourage everyone. You could get a free account on there. You could go on there and just sign up and get emails from these organizations. So if you're interested in, being part of this, what I call the People's CIA, even though that sounds kind of socialist itself, certainly, you want to get the best news. You want to find out what's going on, what's coming down the pike. They're scheduling demonstrations and rallies on actionnetwork.org or on opencollective.com. You can get the free accounts. You can go and sign up for these groups' newsletters. I encourage everyone to do it, especially for your area. That way you know what might be around your kid's school, what might be around the hospital you're taking your loved one to, or what might affect you. You don't want to get caught up in something, or you want to counter-protest, which I highly encourage. But that's how you find out where they're going to be, is these, because they announce them. And these are, I'll post the article that I did for the Gateway Pundit. So it took them, one night, boom, petition. Some ridiculous petition, but I guarantee by tomorrow morning on the Action Network, there'll be 5 to 50 new groups set up. And what this thing allows them to do is, you could set up a group, and I'm going to demo it too. You could set up a group. You could say, I want to save the manatees. People are killing the manatees in Tampa. This needs to stop. And we're going to have a rally at the manatee zookeeper's home. And they did this before. They did this with the Roe versus Wade protests. They were out at the Supreme Court justices' homes, and that resulted in a guy showing up to assassinate Justice Roberts. The only reason he didn't is his sister talked him into turning himself into the Secret Service that were out there. But I don't know if he'd been successful, but he could have been, because he had the rubber bottom shoes, and he actually was Googling basically how to assassinate someone, and it's all in the Department of Justice records. That's the power and the danger of these things. I'm not saying they're not. Yeah. I mean, they're not bad tools. It's like a gun. It's who's behind it. That's great that you can mobilize people. And what I encourage people to do is, I don't encourage them to fund these type of platforms, but shoot, we got some smart techies who are not progressive. Make us an action network, man. So we can counter this, so I'll put that out there. So there's that. And then the final thing is the zombies. Dude, I don't know if you saw this story. I couldn't believe it. And this is Sam Faddis. Sam Faddis is a career CIA field guy. He's the real deal. And I know this. He is the real deal. But he found this. He put out this story about the Chinese are messing once again with, well, they never stop, but messing with viruses.
I heard that.
Yeah. Well, one of these happens to be, what they're doing is they're going, and this really explains a lot of what the hell they're doing in Antarctica, why there's such a big, fierce competition going on down there. But they actually they unearthed supposedly some sort of virus that's it's like a zombie virus is how they describe it. So let me just, let's recap. And Sam Faddis is wonderful. Definitely follow this guy. He goes into that. So of course, 2023, having learned nothing, the Chinese are getting ready to do it all over again. Virologica Sinica, the Chinese Society for Microbiology, published this, and happens to be run by Xi Jinping, who was the Batwoman, or the woman who was working with Peter Daszak of the Eco Health Alliance. Probably that led to the release of COVID, and we could get into the gain of function and all that. Please shoot me an email and I'll shoot you a bunch of links if you want. And that's brian@dailyclout.io. JJ, if you could just pop my email into the chat, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to share these links. If you're catching up on this or you want more detail. So third paragraph down. A French scientist recently revived a zombie virus that spent 48,500 years frozen in permafrost. I don't even know how they measure that. I guess they do it by the layers. In the past, he has similarly revived several other viruses, and he has been successful in making viruses infectious again. Other scientists have dug up the genomic material from the influenza strain responsible for the 1918 pandemic and discovered the genetic signatures of the virus that caused smallpox. Now, I'll put up the article so you guys can read it. This is terrifying, and this should terrify you. And I'll try to learn more about this zombie virus. That's a peer-reviewed. That comes from a peer-reviewed article. Like they're excited about this, and when you get into diseases that have been extinct or wiped out, we have no natural protection against them. We actually don't have natural immunity against certain things because our bodies never had to. But what's even scarier about this is, and I'll put the link in the Substack. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but in January or February of 2020, this past year, 23, NIH totally refunded Eco Health Alliance. Eco Health Alliance, owned by Peter Daszak, that is the so-called nonprofit that was working in the Wuhan lab. They're at the center of the controversy. They're the ones that have been pushing, the wet market or natural spillover, theory versus the lab leak theory, and they're they are over there now. They're fully funded with your taxpayer dollars. The same people that were at Wuhan when the virus got out, because I think it came right from the lab. It's never been found in nature ever, and then Peter Daszak and his buddies. They ended up being on the WHO investigative team until people said, "Hey, wait a minute! They work there. They can't be the investigators too." And so then on top of that, he was trying to get DARPA funding because he wanted to spray bat caves with a vaccine for the bats that would spread the vaccine through touch. I mean, these
you can't
are
make this stuff up.
What's that?
You can't make this stuff up.
No, and he's fully funded by us, and now we have people digging up zombie viruses. Like I always said when I watched World War Z and every zombie movie, because I love zombie movies, like, well, at least it'll never get that bad. Now, I don't know what the zombie virus is. Who knows? But aside from that, smallpox, all these other things, God knows. I mean, keep in mind, must have been viruses that wiped out the dinosaurs. I'm pretty sure they could handle a lot more than we could. So people should really keep that in mind and connect the dots here. What do me and JJ talk about all the time? You mentioned it earlier with weird markings on that guy's skin. I mentioned it with an increase of they had 4 cases of leprosy reported this past year coming through the border. Leprosy, like biblical diseases. And I'm just saying, people. So the point, what's the call to action here? Call your freaking congressman every day and say, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about this? Get another job. I'm going to get my community together. We're going to do a petition to get your ass out if you don't do something about this. And I'll make sure I put up the the number. But people, that's one thing people can do, and it does work. Call the main switchboard at Congress. And certainly, and I'm going to post this here, and blow up their phones. make it so they have to hire extra people to answer phones. So Bannon is the one. Steve Bannon gave me this idea. And that's what people do now. And so you should be calling your congressman about everything. And you won't talk to the congressman, but you're going to talk to one of his aides, or you're going to blow up his message, their message system there. And it does work, because they were reporting about it on MSNBC when the House would not approve Jim Jordan. Bannon had, and the right-wing media, the conservative media, had millions of people just blowing up those congressional phones. When you go there, just call the main switchboard and say who you want to talk to. You don't have to look up your own congressman. Say, hey, look, I'm from Maine or whatever. I want to talk to Congressman so-and-so, and I'll wait, I'll hold. And it just, honestly, it shuts down their system and scares the hell out of the politicians when you have a lot of angry people. And don't go on there and start cursing things out and everything. Just remember the who, what, where, why, and how. And, show up on that phone call with lay down some facts. If they switch you to voicemail, if they say, can I transfer you to voicemail? Yeah. And leave all the facts. Like, you did this, you voted this way, do a little homework, and do it every day for every single thing. I do. And it's very, very effective. And get all your friends to do it. Get your community to do it, because and Bannon's a genius on this, where he got this citizen. He calls it the War Room Posse, which is awesome. Proud member. But that's what he does, and it works. The left credits the War Room Posse with getting Youngkin elected in Virginia, which is the first time a Republican got in that seat in like 12 years. So it is effective. And that's why I recommend to people, like, do it. Like, why the hell did we refund turn on the funding for Peter Daszak, which is weird too. And I should mark this in your calendars. November 14th, Daszak is appearing before a hearing, yet he's still fully funded. So that's all I got tonight, man. It's just in the quick. Why do people always say China with a Y? They can still. If you're spelling that so you don't show up on the algorithm, you're still going to show up, because they figured that in. I think, I'd guess, but it doesn't matter. Just say China. I'm just saying, Willie, you seem like a good guy. I'm just saying, just say China, man. Just do it, because keep in mind too, if they have to tag your messages, I always say, then write a bunch of them. Overburden the system, I say. But yeah, anyways, when the cooties, I lived in Washington. Wait, hold on. When the cooties said I lived in Washington, all testing machines were contracted through China. The contract stated the DNA went back to them. That is absolutely true. I'll post a document before we hop off. I recommend everyone really get to read it. But the biotech industry is all about the DNA, and who has the biggest DNA databases has the biggest, owns that market. It's supposed to be the biggest market by now. And in China, they do have it's called the Beijing Institute of Genomics. That's going to be big.gov.cn. And that is the Beijing Institute of Genomics, if you can still access it. There we go. Yeah, go on that site. That'll give you some nightmares. It's pretty weird. But that is their main hub for DNA. So what would happen there, Willie, is you, from the sharps, not only the testing, but also your sharps, when you go and get these shots, they're taking DNA as well. And that goes into a bin, and then it was go into, I think it was a PMC, which is US based, but then that has a German headquarters. And then from there, it went to the Tsingtao Hospital in China, where Beijing Institute of Genomics exists. So there it is. And we'll have to have Brandon Weichart on here sometime. He wrote Biohacked. And
I would like to hear him.
Oh, he's awesome. That guy's it's like Goodwill Hunting and Gordon Chang have merged. I mean, he really knows his stuff. So anyways, yeah, check it out. And by the way, guys, if I can give you a homework assignment, I want you to learn this. And if you're not doing it already, all right, here we go. So this is the best way to monitor content. This is how I stay ahead of it. Learn this, live it, love it. Okay, a lot of you do it already, but don't just put in a keyword, do it like this, okay? I'm gonna give you my my little operator here. I'm typing it in. I'm gonna cut and paste it really quickly. I'll type PDF. I'll let you figure out what all these things mean because I know it's late and we don't really have time to get into it. But you'll like this. A lot of you can figure it out, so and you will stay right on top of everything, and you'll get stuff that you probably wouldn't find if you look for it. Let me pop this. And this is called an advanced search operator. You could just plug these into Google and search, but it's great if you plug it into Google Alerts. I mean, why not have Google do the searching for you? So for those of you not familiar with Google Advanced Operators, this will only pull up PDFs from any site that ends with star.gov.cn. CN is for China. The star, the asterisk is a wildcard. That means, a lot of times we don't know the extensions that come before. You just put a star dot. You could also do this with our own government websites as well. I do. I recommend on our own government websites, you don't do just star.gov. You're going to get every state, every county. Just pick out the agency that you're interested in and do that. The reason I say file type PDFs, the reason I only want PDFs is because that's how peer-reviewed papers are published on PDF. So I recommend everyone set up your Google Alerts, put that in, and take the time to do a tutorial. I don't have one in front of me. I can run one. But I have, if you saw my Google Alerts, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. I got a lot of stuff in there. So, and I also monitor myself and my wife to see what people are saying. But I've gotten so much stuff. I pulled every PDF off of the Wuhan Institute of Virology the minute I heard about this virus. I got every single Kabul Times PDF article right when I heard the Taliban were rolling. And I got all the government ones too, because as soon as the Taliban came into Afghanistan, all of those sites were gone. And so we got them. So, and then I also recommend people, one more JJ, and then I'll hop off. But if people find this useful, I definitely want to share. The other thing, I'm just looking for my share screen. There we go. I wish I could put all these. You know what? I'll just post this one another time. But basically, hold on. Yeah, I got it. Okay. No, yeah, I can't do it right now. But what you want to do is, if anyone is unfamiliar, I'm sure everyone is by now, Wayback Machine, which is part of Internet Archive. This is the site that archives every website in the world. Okay, and as long as it's indexed. So I'll put that there. And Wayback Machine is part of Internet Archive, or archive.org /web. You can actually, there's an extension you can put on Chrome. And so every time you go to a website, you can click over there like instantly and index it. So what index means, it's, for those that don't know, it's getting a snapshot of that website forever. So even if people take it down, it's there forever. And trust me, as soon as, like, every time Biden speaks or Kamala Harris speaks, I index everything. And I save it because it does disappear. So Internet Archive, add that extension. And it's really, really cool. Great info for teachers. Cynthia Clippo, welcome aboard. Great info for teachers, absolutely. Enjoy the conversation very much. Helps with the whacked out times we are in. Oh, yes, absolutely. And I don't even know how Internet Archive is allowed to exist. I mean, they're like some Marvel character, like in a Marvel comic book that, like, remember if you did Marvel comics, they had the Watcher. He just kind of floated around the Marvel verse, like just watching. And he was largely immune to everything. But yeah, Internet Archive and the Google Advanced searches. And yeah, set those alerts up and bring something cool to the conversation. We will do our best to get the announcement out earlier this time, but you can always send it to me or JJ. I share everything with him for the show. And JJ, can I put in your email?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Info at JJ Carroll or just jjcarroll.com. And you can send me an email from there.
Oh, I'm JJ. Yeah, so you got a contact form, I guess.
Yeah, I do. So you can just go right through jjcarroll.com. That's the easiest,
Quickest. The same place. So there's JJ's, or you could just contact me, or both. Actually, CC us if that way. If one of us misses it, the other one won't. And also we appreciate your feedback as well. Even the feedback, we had some pretty fiery feedback from someone who watched it, and I read it, and I understand your concerns. Happy to talk anytime. I know who this person is, so I don't want to say his name because he didn't put his name out there. But happy to talk about that anytime. Not exactly what I said, but we can discuss it, and it's an emotional time, so I get it. So want to let that person know I'm not blowing them off. And we're happy. Any feedback, we just ask that it's constructive. Cheap abuse is fine as long as you donate something to Daily Clout, and call us whatever you want. But we'd rather you didn't. But if you find this useful, certainly just let us know. And bring your friends, and you can also request, hey, do you guys know how to do this or this or this? We'll share what we know as much as we can, and we hope that you guys will break out those phones, take some pictures, some messed up stuff going in your local areas, and feel free to send those to us as well, and we'll try to get to them. Remember, try to keep it around immigration and Chinese Communist Party within the United States. But if it's really something you think we should see, we're going to look at it. So, JJ, you got anything else?
Nope. And I just enjoyed learning. I like learning and listening to people's points of view, and sharpens what I believe in, what I don't believe in. So this is good. Every time I enjoy it. Learn something new.
Always enjoy it. And JJ, let me, sorry to cut you off. I just want to make sure we got everyone's comments before we just peel off here. Cousin Ernie, great to see you, man. Dee Dee Tudor's back. Welcome back, Dee Dee. Dee Dee and Sin O, they've been with us since the very beginning. 6 episodes now? Yay. Several children minors, illegally immigrants working. Dee Dee Tudor says there's illegal minors working in poultry plants in Ohio. Send JJ some information, please. Yeah. As much as you can. Local coverage. Yeah, right?
Yep. Give me all of it. It's all happening. It's happening.
And if you drive by there and it's safe, pull over, put on your phone, grab some video, try to get to cross streets or a map shot, something. Don't get yourself in trouble or, in danger. But that's very good because, look, the more of these little data points we have, the more we can piece this together. And, yeah, people say, well, no one's going to do anything. Yeah, local communities can start doing something. A lot of times they don't know about this stuff, so it's important. And then which small town, Georgia? Sin O, Lunacy, MMM, cool name, and I'm guessing a drummer. Hello, MMM. Sorry we didn't say hello earlier. Welcome, come back definitely. And oh, by the way, housekeeping. We won't be on Tuesday because it's Halloween. If I can figure it out, I might live stream from Halloween in Salem. That's quite a spectacle. And so then, let me see. But we will be back next Thursday, not next Tuesday. All right. And Antarctica. Oh, yeah. And if anyone wants to share Antarctica stuff, one thing about sharing with us, though, please don't share, pundit type stuff. You know what I mean? Like if, someone has an opinion on some news show, that's not really helpful. I mean, as primary as you can make the source. Local news is good. But, if it's, someone who we're probably listening to anyways, it's not really that helpful. But those shows are helpful if you grab the links. But try to get to the primary sources if you would. That'd be great. Or if there's a story you don't think we know about and it is like a pundit type show, yeah, we're happy. We'll check it out, and well, thank you. Cynthia Klippel, fellow, she said, comment on the state police story in Mass, where the boy in Canton is coming up against state police corruption. Thanks. Cynthia, I've just heard about that today. We don't have time tonight, but I certainly am looking into that, so I will. Do you know about the story, JJ?
I do not know. I'll look into it as well.
Yeah, so Cynthia, and feel free to send me anything you have. If you have any links, I'll certainly read them, because I do. I'm in Massachusetts now, so it's important to me, and it sounds very interesting. Sin O, boots on the ground. She's already hitting it. I love it. When I first heard the story, I knew this guy wide open for being taken down. Yeah, I think we're talking about the shooter. And then Sleepy Hollow is crazy all of October. Sleepy Hollow is actually a place in New York, and it's pretty unforgiving territory too. I live in the Hudson Valley, which is not that close to Sleepy Hollow, but it's in the same ecosystem, and you can barely walk through the woods, man. I mean, the vines, the thorns, and if you don't cut by the middle of May, it's like Kong Island. I mean, the weeds turn into trees. I mean, it's insane. And then remember, they had to dissolve. So Cynthia, shoot me all this stuff, and I'll certainly, let me look into it. I don't want to hold everyone up too much longer, but I will send it to Brian at dailyclout.io and to JJ. I'll look into it, and we'll certainly bring it up, and shoot me your details, and we can have an exchange about that. I'm happy to. Good info. So JJ.
No, I'm good. Great night. I love talking to everyone, and I love learning. And we did that today. So there's a lot.
I love the motivation you give me, because I get to the end of the day after all my other work. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I could go on tonight. It's like, and he just gives me that look. He's like, what? And I'm like,
we got it.
All right.
We have to do it. We have to do it.
No. And I'm always glad, actually. The minute I get on, I'm always really glad that I did, and I'm always pumped up afterwards. Guys, also email me. I'll give you my shopping list for my favorite cameras. A lot of them are Chinese made. I'm sorry. I mean, but cameras for this kind of work, so you don't have to point your phone in people's faces. I used to run a private investigation company up until recently. I shifted it over to non-licensed work, which is now called primary intelligence collection, just because the license, people were attacking the license because they were trying to attack my wife, so they were attacking my license. So now I do primary collection, so it's not technically investigations. But I do have, I've used everything. I know what's good and what's bad. So if you're heading on Amazon and you want to get some cool devices, I can recommend you what to get, what not to get. But this one here, I like this, has a little screen, which is important. You want to see if you're pointed at it. Has a little lens right there, and you can see the company. But I'm happy to put together a list. I've got pens, cameras, drones, you name it, and I do this stuff all the time. So there we are. And yeah, I love it, man. I want everyone eyes on all these bad guys. Certainly you're going to be the people. This is going to become the people's CIA. That's the goal here, JJ.
All right. Then we'll see everyone on Thursday. Have a good Halloween. Stay safe, and we'll have a good show for you on Thursday.
Yeah, and you too, and stay safe, and happy Halloween. And real quick, what's your son dressing up as?
Oh, you just asked me. Fortnite.
That's a good one.
Video game, yeah. So it's a big deal to him. I only have about 2 more Halloweens with him, and then it's gonna be too old. So trying to enjoy everyone that I can get.
Kids are the same age, so I know it. He's almost there. My kid got his. He became a big fan of Cobra Kai, which I highly recommend. Great show, hilarious, addictive. But he and his friends, they're all dressing up as the Skeleton Gang from the original movie.
Oh, really?
I think that's pretty cool. Yeah,
that is going to be good.
Cool.
I love Halloween. So, just have a good time. My son loves it. Dress up as a Fortnite character, and he'll run around and get candy. He's happy. Good
that's
times
cool.
to be young.
All right. Well, you guys take care, and I will talk to everyone later. And JJ, thanks
Bye-bye.
again as always. All right.
All right,
Later.
Brian. We'll talk soon. Bye.
All right.